I got the extra review and then the chapter 8 extra circle problems.
No.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. So here we go. We're going to do our extra problems. We need our calculator. And here we go. Who remembers how to do the first problem?
R, sine, and cosine.
Yep, this is the super simple one. We just take out the x and y and replace it with our cosine theta and our sine theta. So it's going to be, oh shoot, it didn't work. It's going to be r cosine theta minus 3r sine theta equals 5. Everybody okay with that? That's number 1. Now, number 2 says we have 3 CIS 192, and we need to change that into rectangular form. Kids, remember, r CIS theta goes with x plus yi. So if we have r CIS theta, then we're going to change it into x plus yi. Change into rectangular. So how do we find x? 3 cosine 192, and y is 3 sine 192. So we take out our calculator, we type it in, and we should get negative 2.93 minus 0.62i. Remember, when you write your answer, the I goes with the Y value. You got to stop me if you got a question. Vaughn, could you bring the pass?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. All right, let's look at the next one. What are we going to do there? Yep, we're going to draw a picture because it says plot. Yeah, we're definitely going to draw a picture. All right, so here we go. And I gave you some graph paper earlier. If you have that, great. If not, here we go. Plot that point. Now, negative 275 is problematic. So what do I do, Jordan? So I have to plot, this tells me to plot the opposite point. So I'm going to plot the point 2, and then here's 75. I'm going to the opposite side of the circle. So that would be what, 255? Don't panic. 255 is not on your chart or on your grid, but every 15 degrees there's a line. So that's going to be halfway between 240 and 270 is 255. Second circle out, 255, there's the point. Now I'm going to graph this. You'll have to do this on your quest. So whatever the equation is, type it in. You already have an equation in there. Get rid of that one. Put in this new one. Press graph. And then, as close as you can, reproduce it on the grid. Remember that Mrs. Ford isn't going to be all super picky about everything being perfectly symmetric, but you have to at least have the right size. So I'm counting my hash marks, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And it looks like I got a little indentation right here. So it looks something like that. Does it make sense to you that that's the shape we would come up with when we graph this equation? Heck yeah. Because what's that right there? A plus sign. And what does that plus sign mean? Lima sign. And what's a lima sign? A lima bean shape? Right? Everybody okay with that? Now we're changing to polar coordinates. So 3, -5. Now we want to change that to polar, which means I'm finding what? If I'm finding polar, I'm finding r and theta. And I don't have formulas for r and theta. I have to draw it, yep. So here's over 3 down 5. So this will be my r.
34.
And that will be the square root of 34. That's my r. It's that easy. Half done already. Now how do I find my angle? Always, always, always I use second tangent. So second tangent. And that's going to give me my angle. 59.04. But this is where I always have to be really, really careful because, yeah, I never ever use, whatever comes up on my calculator, I never ever use that unless I'm in quadrant 1. If I'm not in quadrant 1, then I'm going to have to do something. And Ferris said subtract from 360, is he right?
Yes.
So that's going to be 300.96 degrees. Everybody good? Now I'm writing this as a rectangular equation. What do you think? So I've got to first of all replace this with its fraction definition. So secant, reciprocal of cosine, so r over x. Then what? Multiply by x to get rid of the fraction. So multiply whatever the denominator is. Happens to be x this time. What do you notice about this equation? There's an r on both sides, so x equals 4 is your answer. On our practice tests, when we did problems like this, it was a little bit different. So we always ended up with an r squared. What did we do with the r squared? If we end up with an r squared, we replace it with x squared plus y squared. So when we do this, we're either going to end up with an r on both sides, cancel them out, or you end up with an r squared, which you replace with x squared plus y squared. Okay, Jordan, you with me?
I'm good.
You're good?
Yeah.
All right. Number 6. This is the power problem. So try to remember that the power problem has 2 very distinct steps. You have to do 2 steps on this problem. All right? So, who can remember what the first step is? Draw a graph. I need to draw a picture of it. So the first thing you have to do, kids, is draw a picture. You've got to change this into the CIS form. You got to change it. That's step 1. Get the r and theta. Step 1 is get the r and the theta. So, to find r, we do the Pythagorean theorem, right? And I can try to do it in my head, yes, and be wrong, or I can actually write it down.
It's root 10.
It is not root 10.
-2.
It's not -2.
7.
And it's not 7. Let's just stop guessing. when I square this, 2 squared of course is 4. And if I'm gonna put that in my calculator, there are 2 pieces to it, so it's gotta go in with parentheses. If I don't use my calculator, it's just as easy not to. It's 4 times 3, so that should be 12. So R is 4. If you're not getting 4, then I don't know what to say to you. You're not typing it in right on your calculator. A squared plus B squared equals C squared. X squared plus Y squared equals R squared. Now we need this angle. How do I always find an angle on my calculator? Second tangent. But again, I'm going to write it down. When I write it down, I have this, right? Now, that's a 2-part number. So you're either going to put that in parentheses, or you're going to recognize that you can cancel, and it might be easier just to put that in. It doesn't matter, but you better get 30. If you're not getting 30, you're not doing it right. So my R is 4, and my angle is what? 150. That's step 1. Change it to polar form. Get R and theta. That's step 1. Step 2 is actually do the power thing. How does that work?
4 to the 5th.
And then multiply 150
When
by
we
5.
do the power thing, it's 4 to the 5th and 150 times 5.
That's too big a number.
Well, 4 to the 5th is 1024. And this would be 750, which is too big of a number.
Yeah, 30.
So it comes down to 30, and that's what you put in the answer one. Okay, 2-part process. Step 1, what's step 1? Change, yes, graph it, change it into polar form. Step 2 is then do the power. Anybody have a question about that? What, yeah.
How did you get 30 at the end?
How did somebody tell her? How did we get 30?
Subtract 360 and
Gotta keep subtracting 360 till that is small enough.
Okay.
So we actually subtracted 2 360s. All right, next problem. We're almost done. We've got 2 numbers. And we are going to multiply them and divide them. So who remembers the rule for multiplication, Jordan?
Multiply 3 and 6.
Multiply the R values, yep, the 3 and the 6,
Add 182 and 200.
and add the angles, 382. Caroline, here's another one. See that angle right there? It's bigger than 360. So I gotta shrink it. So 18 CIS 22 will be my final answer. Bo, you follow along there? Got that? How do I do the division then? Jordan?
Divide 3 and 6.
So that would be 1/2. Or if you prefer, you can put 0.5, right? And then what?
Subtract 182.
Subtract, and it's gotta be, if it's Z1 divided by Z2, it's gotta be 182 minus 200, which is what, negative 18? But wait a minute, that's too small. So now we're gonna add 360. So we have 1/2 CIS 342. I'm changed to rectangular coordinates. Okay, what does that mean? What am I doing if I'm changing to rectangular coordinates? I'm gonna find X and Y. And how do I find X and Y? X equals 7 cosine 200, Y equals 7 sine 200. Negative 6.58. And negative 2.39. How about that? Does that look okay to everybody? One more. Change to polar form. All right, now look carefully at that problem. That is x plus yi. What does that go with? If you have an x plus yi, it's going to be changed into CIS. Those two go together. I's, the I numbers go together. Okay, how do I do that? I got an x and a y. I need an r and a theta. How do I find my r and theta?
Graphic.
Draw a picture. What's my r? Pythagorean theorem. R is root 53. So there's my r value. How do I find my angle?
180 plus.
Well, first I gotta find the angle.
Second tangent.
So I'll second tangent 7/2. And I get 74.05. So what's my theta gonna be? 180 plus, right? 180 plus. It's past 180. The angle is past 180. So it's gotta be 180 plus. This is 180. It's gotta be 180 plus, which is 254.05. So there is your answer. And we just took the whole darn practice. We took the whole lesson. As every problem. Okay? So now, I need to know.